Jamie and I have known each other for 25 years. Yeah. Although we lost track of each other for a little period, and I was like, oh, I know where Jamie is. And then his book came out, and I was like, Jamie has written a memoir, which has been compared to Augustine Burroughs. You know, it's kind of wild. This is my crazy life, and these are the incredibly horrible things that have happened to me. At the same time, he makes it incredibly entertaining and amusing. And yes, you're reading about something that in the hands of most people would seem absolutely depraved and insane and awful and sick. And somehow it manages to be something that you won't like vomit over. It's actually, it becomes amusing, funny. Some people would describe this memoir, you know, if they have to typecast things, as a memoir of addiction. You know, and in this case, Jamie had, as he describes at the very beginning, you know, 2 major relationships in his life that were addictive, and one was to his mother, Mama Jean, and one was to alcohol and drugs. And reading the book was, there was a really terrific memoir about drinking called Drinking a Love Story by Caroline Knapp, which came out many years ago, and she died young. But this book is a much richer book than that, because that was about a kind of almost like just a post-adolescent woman's relationship to alcohol and her relationship to her father. But this book is so much richer and has so many other layers. Jamie grew up in Texas. He moved to New York and worked in book publishing. And I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions to start things off.
Can I take my glasses off?
You can take your glasses off, but I made you wear them because they're so cool. I guess I'd like to ask you to tell me about your mother. Tell me about your mother.
My mother. Mama Jean Brickhouse, Jean Linehan Tice Brickhouse. She was amazing. She was an over-the-top Texas woman, kind of a small-town Elizabeth Taylor. You know, she was like a movie star to me, and she was self-made. She made all the money in the family. She was a realtor and then a stockbroker. But she was kind of, you know, split personality of Auntie Mame and Mama Rose. A little bit heavier on the Mama Rose side.
Right.
And she never had a thought she didn't speak. And she loved me. I was the only, she was married before my father and had 2 sons, whom she loved as well. And then I was the only.
But she loved you more.
Well, I don't know about that. But I was the only product of my parents' marriage. I was the only redhead in the family, and they wanted, when she was pregnant with me, she wanted a redheaded, because there was redhead in the family on both sides, so they knew it was a possibility. They wanted a redheaded, brown-eyed girl, because she was dying for a little girl that she could dress up like a doll. And as she used to joke, she said, well, we came close, but there was something hanging between the legs. And she called me Tallywhacker Baby. But she just absolutely adored me, but it was smother love, and that I was always, and I adored her. But after, you know, when she couldn't handle it when I started to grow up and grow away from her, you know, that natural process. And I mean, I know that's hard for anybody.
She took you to the hairdresser.
Oh, yeah.
I love those like afternoons at the hairdresser where you learned as a 5-year-old to make like chit chat with the ladies underneath the dryer. And
oh yeah, I was a precocious child, and I was happier being with her and her friends than my own friends. I was like, ugh, you know, the kids on the playground were not for me. That was icky. I just wanted what my parents had, and I wanted to be a part of that group. But yeah, hair is really important part of this. I think it's almost more important than drugs and alcohol. I mean,
well, I love the nickname for her hairdo, which was the Cat 5, because it could survive a Category 5 hurricane, and it was like a helmet, like bouffant,
yeah.
like the Cat 5. It sounds like a cartoon. Like
well, she was of a certain generation, and in the South, and in the Texas, and she got her hair done once a week. She never washed her own hair. It was only at the hairdresser. And during busy social weeks, she'd have a comb out in between getting it done. Everything. That was the one thing in her life that dominated her. She dominated everything else, but hair dominated her life. That was her addiction.
Why did you decide to write this book? I mean, when you read it, it's self-evident, but you went through a lot. You went through addiction. You came out to your parents. You did a lot of crazy stuff. Was it part of?
Was it? Are you going with? Was it catharsis?
Yeah.
Was it therapy? Was it? It was certainly all those things in writing it, but I wrote it because I'm a writer, and I didn't write for most of my life up until this point. I wrote a little bit, I wrote in high school, and I wrote, I was in high school, newspaper, and in college, and I came to New York with vague notions of writing, but I got into publishing and publicity, and had a great career there, and had a great career in drinking, and so the writing just went away. And I did a little bit of freelance here and there. And when I got sober, I started writing again.
Right.
And I wanted to write. I wrote this book because I'm a writer. This was a story
and
I had to tell, and I wanted to. And I was finally sober enough to write, because I think it's also a myth about. I mean, they're all the writing and drinking. I think a lot of the writers who drank weren't drunk when they wrote.
No.
I mean, they had to have some periods. You just can't do it.
No, I totally agree with you. Having been drunk and tried to write myself, it just doesn't work.
So I was about 2 years sober when I started. I started doing some freelance writing for a couple of magazines, and that jump-started me. And then someone suggested I get to a writing workshop, or introduced me to someone who was starting a writing workshop, someone who was retiring from Columbia. And that's when I started. And my mother, at that point, she had just been dead about a year. And so I started writing in the workshop, and I was writing about her, and I was writing about my alcoholism. And then, after a while, I thought, okay, well, I've got to make a choice. I've got to either write a book about booze or about my relationship with her. But everything I wrote was about both, and I found they were inextricable, because my relationship with her was addictive, like the bottle. Unlike the bottle that almost killed me, hers saved me in the end, because she was not an alcoholic. She was a social drinker, which I didn't understand until actually really rather recently. I thought a social drinker was a person who likes to drink at social functions.
Right. What is a social drinker?
Social drinker is a person who can take or leave it.
Right.
Like, they enjoy it, but if you told them, you've got a liver problem and you can never drink again, you'll think, well, that sucks, but no big deal. But an alcoholic would say,
right,
I'll keep on anyway and just see what happens.
Oh, man. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So your book opens with you are in the hospital. Why
was I in the hospital?
Yeah.
I took an overdose of sleeping pills. It was straight out of Valley of the Dolls. What did I say? As I write in the book, I said, the prescription on the pills, it was Ambien. It said, take as needed, and I followed directions. But I was at the end, it was my bottom, what you call in alcohol, and I had hit my bottom. And I felt all used up at that point. And I understood, and there were a few suicide people I knew in my past who had committed suicide, and I used to think, why would you ever do that? That's the ultimate, that's so selfish, and that's the cowardly way out. And I understood how they felt when I got there, when I got to that point, because I felt I had lost a job. I mean, I got fired from a job for the drinking, which I didn't admit was over the drinking, but I kind of knew. And I was humiliated by that. And I had always done well in school. I was always straight A kid, and best little boy and all that. And so I was just devastated over that. And I had tried to get sober a few years before that, so I also knew that I was an alcoholic and needed to stop drinking, but I couldn't. I was powerless. And I thought, what, I'm done. And I was 38, and I thought, I've gone as far as I can in my job. I haven't completed anything of artistic merit, and I'm never going to, and this is it.
And this was like in the morning, wasn't it? Like a workday morning?
It was a workday morning, yeah. I had, I did have a job, and I had called, I was 3 or 4 months into that job, and had already, was having hangover days and calling in sick. And I did that one morning, and actually I said I was going to be late because I had a business breakfast. And then I woke up like at lunchtime, and my boss had responded to my email saying again, because I had used the same excuse recently. And I had been suicidal at that point, thinking about suicide actually every day. And I thought, you know what? This is it. I can't go on like this. And it was an impulsive. I didn't think about my partner Michael, who was at work that day and would find me when I got home. I didn't think about Mama Jean. I just thought, you know what? I've got to do it. I can't.
Because you just felt that helpless.
Yeah. And it was like standing on top of the diving board. The wet in the title, Dangerous When Wet, has to do with alcohol, has to do with water, because I have a fear of water and swimming. I mean, I know how to swim now, but I'm cautious. And in the sexual reference, there's a lot of sexcapades in there.
Yeah. We'll get to the sex and
But anyway, just that moment of when I took those pills, I thought it was like standing on top of the high dive when I was a kid and terrified about jumping. And I remember willing myself as a child, like, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it, just jump. And that's what I did with those pills. And I was like, just do it and don't think about it. Push everything aside.
You woke up in the hospital and your mother was there.
I woke up to the news that she was coming, and I was panicked, and I said, stop her. And I was more worried about her coming, because she was already on to me about the alcohol. I'd already been out to her about being an alcoholic, and it was, she knew I was drinking again. And, because I thought, I don't need her in the middle of this. I don't need her screaming, God damn it! I knew this was going to happen! And it was really about, because I was hoping that I could just sweep this under the rug and keep going.
Right.
Not necessarily drink, probably drink, but what I now know is what I was afraid of is really to face myself. Because she was like, at that point, she was what was left of my conscience. She was, because she was not gonna sweep it under the rug.
Right.
And so it was really about facing my alcoholism and facing myself that I was afraid of.
There's so much in this book that is really raw and shocking. I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but like even though you had a great partner, you definitely alcohol and drugs caused you to do a lot of things.
Call some bad behavior.
Yeah, that was really major, bad, crazy behavior that when I read it, and I thought, God, this is the guy I knew when we were 22 years old, and it seems unreal. But would you have engaged in all of that behavior had you not been? Had you just been having fun, without alcohol and drugs, or was that? I mean, that's part and parcel of it.
Yeah, I think it's certainly the alcohol fueled a lot of that behavior, and it fueled a lot of the sexcapades that I am a sexual person, like I think most people are, and I do enjoy sex, but I think to the extent and to the recklessness that I did, now absolutely that had to do with the alcohol.
It's so fascinating. Who's read the book? Yes, okay, several of you, Sally. Because I remember, I knew Jamie when we were in our early 20s, and we had been at the Radcliffe Publishing course together, and we used to go out and have martinis after work.
Oh, yeah. And did we have scorpions at that Chinese restaurant?
Yeah, I think so.
That was in Cambridge.
Yeah, yes, that's right. We did. Anyway.
Alex, we'd go have martinis at lunch.
Who, me? No.
We publishing.
Yeah, in
not just
publishing,
after work.
everybody.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that, later, when I was at the New York Times, there is a lot of pressure to drink in the business of publishing and writing. And I used to go interview Art Cooper, who was the editor of GQ, who's now deceased, so I feel I can tell this story because he wouldn't care. But he was a really good source for media gossip, and he had great ideas.